right. So now we're going to learn a little bit more sophisticated rules for differentiation and beyond the basics. And so the product rule and the quotient rule, and I have them at the top of your sheet. And so it says the derivative d dx of f times g, two functions being multiplied together, is equal to f times the derivative of g plus g times the derivative of f. How I learned this and how it stuck in my head, and it has kept in my head for many years. I took calculus, I think, when I was a senior in high school, and ever since then, when my teacher told me that, it stuck in my head, and the quotient rule did too. So this is how you do it. First times derivative of the second plus second times derivative of the first. That is the product rule. Now, you don't have to memorize it that way. In fact, if you switch the order, it is still okay, meaning commutative for addition exists. A plus B is B plus C. So, but that's how it's stuck in my head. First derivative of second plus second derivative of first. That is the product rule. And so you have it on your sheet right there. Then the quotient rule. So here, let me write the product rule just so we see that. dx, and I'm going to leave out the f. So if you look at this little table right underneath that, this is just a summary of all the rules, just handy for you. So if I say dx of f times g of x, this is first times the derivative of the second plus second times the derivative of first. And what I mean if you switch this, I mean if you say g times f prime plus f times g prime, that's the same thing. That's what I meant. So first derivative second, second derivative first. Then we're going to use quotient rule. Quotient means division, so a fraction. So if we've got this, if we've got the derivative of a function in x over a function in g, okay, then this is low d high minus high d low all over low low. So what you heard me say is what my teacher taught me a long time ago, and this stuck in my head. It's low, or the function downstairs in the denominator, low d high minus high d low over low low. This is what I learned, and it's stuck in my head, so if that's helpful to you, great. What this means is low, derivative of high, minus high, derivative of low, over low times itself, low, low. So that's what you'll hear me say when I have a quotient rule. All right, let's just dig into it and get it going. Let's look at number 4. Number 4, we have to take the derivative of g of x, which is defined to be x plus 2 times the square root of x times e to the x. Now, you could multiply e to the x times each of these, but then you'll have a bunch of product rules. If we consider this to be our first function in x, and this to be our second function in x, then we can apply this rule right here, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say that g prime of x is the first function, x plus 2 times the square root of x. Here's also what I'm going to do. I'm going to think of the square root of x as x to the 1/2, because that's going to make it easier on me. It's going to be first times the derivative of the second, so it's going to be x plus 2 times the square root of x, or x to the 1/2, times the derivative of the second. Derivative of e to the x is e to the x, plus second, e to the x, times derivative of the first. Derivative of x is 1, derivative of 2 times x to the 1/2. 2, bring the 1/2 in front, and multiply is going to be a 1. X to the 1/2 minus 1/2 is x to the negative 1/2. That is what the derivative of g is. Sometimes we like to clean this up. I'm not going to clean this one up. I'm just going to leave it just like that for now. How about number 6? Number 6 is e to the x over 1 minus e to the x. And this is what y equals to. This is a quotient. I will use the quotient rule. So this is my g function, this is my f function. Y prime is low, 1 minus e to the x, d high, derivative of the numerator, e to the x, minus high, e to the x, d low, derivative of the denominator. Okay, the derivative of 1 is 0, the derivative of negative e to the x is negative e to the x, all over low low. 1 minus e to the x squared. So y prime, I am going to clean this one up because I know it simplifies nicely. I'm going to distribute this e to the x to each of these. 1 times e to the x is e to the x, minus e to the x times e to the x is e to the x plus x, or e to the 2x. A minus times a minus is a plus. E to the x times e to the x is e to the 2x. All over 1 minus e to the x squared. Right here, negative e to the x plus e to the x is a 0. So this is e to the x over 1 minus e to the x squared. That's y prime. Okay, let's look at number 8. G of x is equal to x squared minus 2 all over 2x plus 1. This is quotient rule, so g prime of x will be low d high, derivative of high, 2x plus 0, minus high, x squared minus 2, d low, which is just 2, all over low, low. And we can clean this up. Let's see. That's going to be 4x squared plus 2x minus 2x squared plus 4 so that's going to be 4x squared minus 2x squared is going to be 2x squared plus 2x plus 4 all over 2x minus 1, plus 1 squared. Just like that. Okay, cool. Let's see. Let's go on and do number 16. Let's do 16. Oops, I just erased speed wagon. There he went. Maybe I'll have a new one appear in the morning. We'll see. All right. All right, 16 goes like this. Y equals 2. 1 over t to the third plus 2t squared minus 1. This is definitely a quotient rule. So y prime is going to be low t cubed plus 2t squared minus 1 times the derivative of the numerator d high, which is 0, minus high 1 d low. The derivative of the denominator is 3t squared plus 4t plus 0 all over the denominator low squared. T cubed plus 2t squared minus 1 squared. We could simplify this to be 0 minus 1 negative 3t squared minus 4t over t cubed plus 2t squared minus 1 squared, just like that. How about 18? 18. I like 18. H of r is equal to a e to the r over b plus e to the r. Let's see. This is a function of h. H is the function, and h is a function of r. R is the independent variable. So e to the r is a function part of this. E to the r is a function part of this. A is a constant, b is a constant. All right, that's important to take note of. This is a quotient rule, so h prime of r will be low, b plus e to the r, d high. The derivative of e to the r is e to the r, and that constant just keeps getting multiplied there. Low d high minus high, a e to the r, derivative of the low. Derivative of b is 0, derivative of e to the r is e to the r, all over low, b plus e to the r squared. Okay, now let us clean this up, because it will clean up, I think, a little bit. One thing I'm going to do is, I see a common factor here. You see this a e to the r? I'm going to factor that out from both sides, both terms, just to see what's going to happen here. So This is the common factor that I see. I'm going to factor that out. If I take out an a, e to the r, what am I left with? I'm left with b plus e to the r, b plus e to the r, minus e to the r, minus e to the r, all over the denominator, b plus e to the r squared. But e to the r minus e to the r is a 0, right? So we just have a b up here. A, b, e to the r over that is the derivative of 18. Okay, we just have a few more left. Let's look at 24. Quotient rule, right? 24 is quotient. 24 goes like this. F of t is equal to AT over BT squared plus CT cubed. Let's see here. F prime of t is going to be low BT squared plus CT cubed. D high, A minus high, AT, D low, 2B plus 3C T squared all over low. Oh my goodness, I totally ran out of room. Let me see if I can clean this up. So F prime of t is equal to, I'm going to distribute to see if anything cleans up. AB t squared plus AC t cubed minus 2ABT squared 2ABT squared plus 3CT cubed all over all of this stuff. BT squared plus CT cubed squared. Does anything like terms? ABT squared minus 2ABT squared. 1 minus 2 is a negative 1. There. That's simplified. Okay, let's see. What have we got left? 26 and 27. Okay, cool. Then we're done. 26 and 27. Is this one. Hello, Henry. How are you, puppy? I hear ya. F of x is equal to ax plus b over cx plus d. This is quotient rule. Let's just make sure we understand this. The independent variable here is x. This is a function of x. So the a and the b are numbers. The c and the d are numbers. Okay, fine. So f prime of x will be low cx plus d. Derivative of high, just an a, because derivative of x is 1, derivative of b is 0, minus high, ax plus b, d low. Derivative of low is just going to be c, because c times 1 plus 0 all over low, cx plus d squared. Let's see, we'll clean this up, we'll distribute and see what happens. We get acx plus ad plus minus acx minus bc all over cx plus d squared. Do we have any like terms? We sure do. acx minus acx is 0. So we get AD minus BC over this. Okay, last one is 27. And it's f of x is equal to x cubed plus 1 times e to the x. And they say find the first and the second derivative. So let's find the first derivative, f prime of x. This is product rule. First times the derivative of the second plus second times the derivative of the first, 3x squared. So that is the first derivative. Now, if we have to take a second derivative, and we do, it is a really good idea to try to clean this up a little bit so we don't have to do too much work. So what I'm going to do, Right now I have, if I were to take the derivative as is, am looking at a product rule, because there's two functions being multiplied together, plus another product rule, and that's a lot of work. What I'm going to simply do is factor out an e to the x. So this is still f prime of x, but if I factor out an e to the x, I'm left with x cubed plus 3x squared plus 1. And that is okay. And now this makes it a lot simpler. Now it's a product rule, but only one. This is a function of x. This is a function of x. So f double prime of x will be first, which is just e to the x, times derivative of the second, 3x squared plus 6x, plus second, x cubed plus 3x squared plus 1, times derivative of the first, but the derivative of e to the x is just e to the x. Now I can factor out e to the x just to clean it up. Let's see what happens. Leaving me with 3x squared plus 6x plus x cubed plus 3x squared plus 1. And the only thing I can do here to simplify this is combine these like terms, 3x squared plus 3x squared, which will become 6x squared. And we can simplify it to being that. So that is the product and the quotient rule.